The massive alien ship appeared over Seoul on a quiet Tuesday morning. It hung in the sky like a silver disk, its surface smooth and perfect. People stopped in the streets to stare up at it. Cars pulled over. Phones came out to take pictures. But there was no panic. Humans had been waiting for this moment for centuries. Captain Hansol stood at attention in the military command center, his dark uniform crisp and neat. Around him, screens showed the alien vessel from different angles. He was 42 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes that had seen too many late nights preparing for this exact situation. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," said the communications officer. "The message is in perfect Korean. They're asking to speak with Earth's leaders." Hansol nodded. "Put it through to the main screen." The alien that appeared looked almost human, except for its pale blue skin and large eyes. It wore what seemed to be a formal robe with strange patterns that shifted and moved. "I am Ambassador Kyle of the Galactic Council," it said in a clear voice. "We come in peace to welcome humanity into the greater galactic community." What followed was a series of meetings that would change Earth forever. The aliens were fascinated by humans, but not in a good way. They couldn't understand how anyone could live on Earth. "Your world is what we call a Class 12 death world," Ambassador Kyle explained during one meeting. He was looking at Earth's data on a floating screen. "The gravity is too high. The weather is too extreme. You have thousands of poisonous plants and animals. There are active volcanoes and earthquakes. How do you survive?" Hansol smiled politely. "We adapt. We build. We prepare." The alien delegation visited Earth's military bases and cities. They were most interested in the defensive structures, the walls, bunkers, and fortifications that protected important places. Ambassador Kyle touched an old stone wall with 3 fingers, looking confused. "You still use physical barriers?" he asked. "How primitive. Our worlds are protected by energy shields and plasma barriers. Nothing solid can get through them." Hansol watched as Soo-jin, one of Earth's top engineers, demonstrated how the wall was built. She was young but brilliant, with a practical mind that solved problems others couldn't see. "This wall has stood for hundreds of years," she explained. "It has survived earthquakes, bombs, and countless storms. Sometimes the old ways work best." The aliens laughed at this. They showed videos of their defensive technology. Beautiful screens of light that could stop anything. Cities protected by bubbles of pure energy. Weapons that could vaporize incoming missiles. "Your physical defenses are interesting museum pieces," Ambassador Kyle said kindly, as if talking to a child. "But you'll need to upgrade if you want to join modern galactic society. There are dangers out there you can't imagine." Hansol and Soo-jin shared a look. They had both noticed something about the alien defenses. They were all powered by complex technology. What happened if that technology failed? Later that night, Hansol sat in his office, looking at pictures of the alien ships and their defensive systems. On his desk was a piece of the stone wall, worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. He picked it up, feeling its weight. "They think we're primitive," Soo-jin said from the doorway. She walked in and sat down, her work clothes still dusty from inspecting fortifications. "They don't understand why we keep building physical defenses." Hansol placed the stone back on his desk. "Maybe that's good," he said quietly. "Sometimes the best advantage is having others underestimate you." Through his window, he could see the alien ship glowing softly in the night sky. It was beautiful and advanced, just like all their technology. But Hansol couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's primitive ways might prove more important than anyone expected. He didn't know it then, but he was right. The aliens' trust in their high-tech defenses would soon be tested, and Earth's hand-built fortresses would show their true worth in ways that would shock the entire galaxy. In the coming days, more alien ships arrived, bringing diplomats and technology experts. They began setting up their defensive systems around Earth's major cities. while politely ignoring the outdated physical defenses that had protected humanity for so long. They were about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating humans and their primitive ways. 3 months after first contact, Captain Hansol received an urgent message at midnight. He was sleeping in his office again, surrounded by reports about the alien shield installations. The computer's loud beeping woke him up. The message was coded, marked with the highest security level. When he opened it, a familiar face appeared on the screen. It was Jiho, one of Earth's best spies. His face was thin and worried. He spoke quickly and quietly. "Captain, I don't have much time," Jiho whispered. The video was shaky, showing he was recording it in secret. "I've discovered something terrible. There's another alien empire called the Ravagers. They're coming to attack Earth." Hansol sat up straight, fully awake now. Jiho had been working undercover in alien space stations for the past 2 months, pretending to be a human trader learning about galactic commerce. "The Ravagers destroy every new civilization they find," Jiho continued. "They've already conquered 12 worlds this year. Earth is next on their list. But here's the important part. They know how to beat the Galactic Council's defensive shields." The next morning, Hansol called an emergency meeting. Sujin was there, along with other military leaders and engineers. The alien ambassador Kyle attended too, looking calm and unbothered as always. "This is ridiculous," Kyle said after hearing about Jiho's warning. "The Ravagers are just pirates. Our defensive technology is perfect. Nothing can get through our shields." Sujin stood up, pointing to a diagram on the wall. It showed how the alien shields worked. But what if they find a way to turn off the power? What if they have weapons we don't know about? Kale waved his hand dismissively. "Impossible. Our shields have protected thousands of worlds for centuries. We will install them around all your major cities. You will be perfectly safe." Hansol watched as Sujin tried to argue, but the alien wouldn't listen. After the meeting, he found her in the engineering lab, looking at old blueprints of Earth's fortifications. "They won't listen," she said, frustrated. "They think their technology makes them invincible. But I studied their shields. They all depend on constant power and complex computers. One small problem, and they fail completely." Hansol picked up one of the blueprints. It showed the design of an ancient Korean mountain fortress. "Then we'll do what humans have always done," he said. "We'll prepare our own way." That afternoon, they received another secret message from Jiho. This time, he had more details about the Ravagers. The video showed massive warships, bigger than anything the Galactic Council had. They were ugly and threatening, covered in weapons. "They used special EMP weapons," Jiho explained. EMPs were energy pulses that could destroy electronic equipment. That's how they beat the shields. They turn off all the power, then attack while everything is dark. No one has survived their attacks so far. Sujin was right, Hansol thought. The aliens trusted their technology too much. They had forgotten the value of simple, strong walls and deep bunkers, things that didn't need power to work. He made a decision. While the Galactic Council installed their shields around Earth's cities, Hansol would secretly prepare Earth's old defenses too. He called Sujin to his office. "Get me Colonel Ta-1," he ordered. "Tell him to gather every builder, stoneworker, and engineer he can find. We're going to build something the aliens have never seen before." Sujin smiled. She understood exactly what he meant. "They expect us to rely on their shields," she said. "They'll never expect us to trust our own hands and skills instead." Over the next few weeks, the aliens continued installing their defensive technology. They paid no attention to the humans working on the old walls and fortifications. To them, it probably looked like humans fixing up old monuments or doing historical preservation work. They didn't understand that humans had learned something important over thousands of years on their dangerous world. Never trust in just one way of doing things. Always have a backup plan, because when everything else fails, the simplest solutions are often the strongest. As Hansol watched another alien shield generator being installed over Seoul, he thought about Jaiho's warning. The Ravagers were coming, but Earth would be ready, not just with alien technology, but with the strength and wisdom of countless human generations who had survived on this death world. Colonel Ta-One stood at the base of an old fortress wall, watching hundreds of workers carry stones and mix concrete. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the construction site. In just 2 weeks, he had gathered the best builders from across the country. "The aliens still haven't noticed what we're really doing," he said to Captain Hansol, who had come to check on their progress. "They think we're just doing restoration work on historical sites." Hansol smiled. All around them, people were hard at work. Some were digging deep trenches while others reinforced old walls with new materials. The noise of hammers and machinery filled the air. "Where's the young architect I've heard so much about?" Hansol asked, looking around the busy site. "Do-hyun," Ta-One called out. A young man climbed down from a scaffolding and hurried over. He was covered in dust and carried rolled-up blueprints under his arm. Despite being only 28, Do-hyun had already made a name for himself by combining ancient building techniques with modern engineering. "Captain, you need to see this," Do-hyun said excitedly, spreading his blueprints on a nearby table. "I've been studying designs from old Korean mountain fortresses. The ancient builders were brilliant. They knew things we're just rediscovering now." The blueprints showed walls built in special layers. Each layer was made to absorb different kinds of attacks. "See this pattern?" Do-hyun pointed to a zigzag design. "It can absorb massive shock waves. Our ancestors used it to protect against earthquakes, but it should work against alien weapons too." While they talked, Soo-jin arrived with more news. "The aliens just installed another shield generator in Busan," she reported. "But I've been watching their tests. The shields flicker for a split second when they change power sources. It's a small weakness, but it's there." Hansol nodded. This was why he had their own defenses built in layers. If one layer failed, there would always be another behind it. Do-hyun led them to a special section of the wall. "Look at this," he said, pointing to strange patterns in the stone. "These aren't just decorations. The ancient builders used these grooves to channel water during storms, but we're using them differently." He explained how the wall's patterns could scatter energy weapons and deflect explosions. "The aliens think we're primitive because we build with stone and steel," Do-hyun said. "But there's advanced science in these old designs. Our ancestors weren't primitive. They were geniuses." Ta-One showed them more of the construction site. Underground, workers were building a network of tunnels and bunkers. The tunnels followed natural cave systems, making them harder for alien sensors to detect. "Every tunnel has at least 3 escape routes," Ta-One explained. "No power needed, just good old-fashioned engineering." Soo-jin had added her own improvements to the ancient designs. She showed them special doors made of local metals that could withstand extreme heat. "Earth materials are different from what the aliens use," she said. "They don't understand how strong our simple things can be." As they walked, Hansol noticed small groups of soldiers training in different areas. They were practicing fighting without modern weapons or technology, just in case they needed those skills later. "How much longer do we need?" Hansol asked, checking his watch. According to Jaiho's last message, the Ravagers were getting closer every day. "The main defenses will be ready in 3 days," Do-hyun answered. "The inner walls are already finished. We're just adding the outer layers now." That evening, Hansol stood on top of the highest wall, watching the sunset. Below him, workers were finishing their day's work. The alien shield generator glowed in the distance, its light reflecting off the clouds. The aliens had given Earth their best technology, but humans had given themselves something better: the combined knowledge of countless generations who had survived on this dangerous world. "Captain," a worker called from below, "we found something in the old wall. You should come see this." Hansol climbed down to where they were working. The workers had discovered an ancient message carved into the stones, hidden for hundreds of years. It was written in Old Korean. Do Hyun translated it for everyone. Build not just with stone, but with the wisdom of ages. For the strongest walls are those that remember the past while facing the future. Hansol touched the ancient words. Even after all these centuries, their ancestors were still teaching them important lessons. As night fell, the workers continued building, adding their own chapter to humanity's long story of survival. The Ravager ships appeared at dawn. They came out of nowhere, filling the sky with their ugly black ships. They were nothing like the smooth, beautiful ships of the Galactic Council. These ships were covered in weapons and looked like giant metal monsters. Ambassador Kyle stood in the command center, looking calm and confident. Do not worry, he told everyone. Our shields are perfect. The Ravagers cannot harm us. Captain Hansol watched the radar screens as more enemy ships arrived. Next to him, Sujin was checking the power readings of the alien shields. She looked worried. Something's wrong, she whispered to Hansol. The Ravagers aren't attacking the city first. They're targeting the shield generators. Before anyone could react, bright flashes lit up the sky. The Ravagers had fired their special EMP weapons. One by one, the beautiful alien shields started to flicker and die. The command center went dark for a moment before backup power came on. Ambassador Kill's blue face had turned pale. Impossible, he shouted. Our shields, they're all failing. Hansol pressed a button on his radio. Colonel Ta-1, are you ready? Ready, Captain, came the calm reply. All defensive positions are manned. Do-Hyun's walls are strong. Let them come. The Ravagers didn't wait long. As soon as the shields were down, they attacked the city. But instead of finding helpless targets, they found something unexpected. Strong walls, deep trenches, hidden bunkers, all built by human hands, using knowledge passed down through generations. What is this? The Ravager commander's voice boomed over their broadcasts. Where are your energy shields? Why do you hide behind primitive walls? Do-Hyun stood on the main wall, watching their first attacks fail. The special patterns in the stone scattered their energy weapons. The layered defenses absorbed their explosions. Nothing they tried could break through. Send in the ground troops, the Ravager commander ordered. Thousands of alien soldiers charged toward the walls. They carried advanced weapons and wore powered armor suits. But humans were ready for this too. The walls had hidden spots where defenders could shoot from. The trenches were lined with traps. Every inch of ground had been prepared with ancient military wisdom mixed with modern knowledge. They're pulling back, someone shouted. The first wave of Ravager troops was retreating, leaving behind broken weapons and damaged armor suits. In the command center, Ambassador Kill watched in amazement. How? He asked. How are you stopping them with just walls? Sujin showed him the screens that monitored their defenses. These aren't just walls, she explained. Each stone was placed with purpose, each layer built with understanding. We took the best ideas from our past and made them better. The Ravagers tried 3 more attacks that day. Each time, they failed to break through. Their energy weapons couldn't destroy the walls. Their bombs couldn't crack the foundations. Their soldiers couldn't find a way past the defenses. As night fell, Hansol walked along the top of the main wall. Workers were already repairing the few spots that had been damaged. The wall's special patterns had worked exactly as Do-Hyun had planned, spreading out the force of each blast. They'll try again tomorrow, Ta-1 said, joining him on the wall. But now, they know we're not easy targets. In the distance, they could see the Ravager ships hovering in the dark sky. Their weapons glowed with angry red lights. The enemy was frustrated. They had expected to find a helpless world hiding behind alien shields. Instead, they found a planet defended by something stronger, human determination and wisdom. Ambassador Kill approached them, looking embarrassed. I was wrong, he admitted. We thought our technology made us superior, but today, your simple walls proved stronger than our advanced shields. Hansol nodded but said nothing. He was watching Du Hyun direct repairs to a section of wall. The young architect had drawn marks on the stones, showing exactly how they should fit together. Each piece had its place. Each layer had its purpose. The first wave of attacks had failed, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Ravagers wouldn't give up easily. They would come back with bigger weapons and better plans. But Earth would be ready, because sometimes the strongest defense isn't a shield of energy or a barrier of light. Sometimes it's just stone and steel, placed by careful hands, built with the wisdom of ages. 2 weeks had passed since the first attack. The Ravagers hadn't left. They just changed their plans. Now their ships formed a dark ring around the city, trying to starve everyone inside. Major Minji walked along the wall's inner track, checking on her soldiers. She was in charge of defending the eastern section, and she took her job seriously. At 35, she had already earned a reputation for being one of Earth's smartest military leaders. "They're getting frustrated," she told Captain Hansol during their morning meeting. "Yesterday they tried to sneak in through the old river tunnel, but our people were waiting for them." Hansol nodded. The Ravagers had lost another 50 soldiers in that failed attack. They couldn't understand how humans always knew where they would strike next. "Show him the map," Minji said to one of her officers. They spread out a large paper map on the table. It wasn't digital. They didn't trust computers that could be hacked. Instead, it was hand-drawn, showing every part of their defenses. "See these marks?" Minji pointed to red circles on the map. "The Ravagers keep attacking the same spots. They think like machines, always looking for the quickest way in. But we think like people who grew up fighting nature itself." Outside, the Ravager ships launched another attack. Their energy weapons lit up the morning sky. But Minji didn't worry. The walls Du Hyun had designed were stronger than ever. Each attack just showed them where to make the defenses even better. "Major." A young soldier ran up to them. "The Ravagers are sending a message. Their Supreme Commander wants to talk." They gathered in the command center. The Ravager commander appeared on their screen. He was tall and gray-skinned, with sharp teeth and angry red eyes. "Why do you hide behind stone walls?" he demanded. "Your primitive defenses cannot last forever. Surrender now, and we might let some of you live." Minji stepped forward. "You call us primitive," she said calmly. "But in 2 weeks, you haven't broken through a single wall. Maybe you should think about why." The commander roared in anger and cut off the transmission. Minutes later, the Ravagers launched their biggest attack yet. Thousands of soldiers charged the walls. Flying machines dropped bombs. Energy weapons fired nonstop. But Minji was ready. She had studied old books about castle sieges and guerrilla warfare. She knew tricks that the aliens had never seen before. When the Ravagers got close to the walls, her soldiers poured special oil down the sides. The oil made the alien soldiers slip and fall. When they tried to use flying machines, hidden nets shot up to tangle their engines. Every high-tech solution was met with a simple but clever defense. "They're pulling back again," Su Jin reported from her observation post. She had been counting the Ravager losses. They lost at least 20 flying machines and hundreds of soldiers. Minji gathered her officers for an evening meeting. The Ravagers would try something new tomorrow. They always did. But each failed attack taught the humans something useful. "Look at their blast patterns," she said, drawing on the map. "They always hit the strongest parts of our walls. They don't understand that sometimes the strongest defense isn't the most obvious one." That night, as the Ravager ships circled overhead like angry birds, Minji walked the walls again. She stopped to talk with her soldiers, sharing food and stories. Unlike the Ravagers, who treated their soldiers like machines, she knew that morale and spirit were just as important as strong walls. "Major," one young soldier asked, "do you think they'll ever give up?" Minji looked up at the enemy ships. Their lights reflected off the clouds, making the night sky glow red. "They might not give up," she said, "but neither will we. We've survived on this death world for thousands of years. We didn't do it by being weak." In his ship high above, the Ravager's supreme commander watched the human city with growing anger. His best weapons couldn't break their walls. His soldiers couldn't find a way in. For the first time in his life, he felt afraid. Not of the humans' weapons or walls, but of their determination. These Deathworlders had turned his siege into a lesson in humility. The siege continued, but with each passing day, the humans grew more confident while the Ravagers grew more desperate. They were learning a hard truth. On a death world, patience was just another form of strength. The meeting room was deep underground, lit by simple electric lights. Engineer Sujin stood in front of a group of military leaders, including Captain Hansol and Major Minji. Behind her was a large map showing something the Ravagers didn't know existed, a massive network of tunnels under the city. "It's time," Sujin said, pointing to different colored lines on the map. "The tunnel network is complete. We've built it just like our ancestors did, but better." Security Chief Yunho stepped forward. He was a quiet man who had spent 20 years working in mountain rescue before joining the military. He knew more about caves and tunnels than anyone else in the room. "The Ravager's sensors can't see these tunnels," he explained. "The rocks in this area naturally block their scans, and we've used old mining techniques to make the tunnels extra strong." Hansol studied the map carefully. "How many tunnels are there?" "Over 200, Sujin answered proudly. "Some are new, some are hundreds of years old. We connected them all. Each tunnel has at least 3 different exits. If the Ravagers find one, we can still use the others." Yunho showed them pictures of the tunnel system. They had built it using techniques from ancient Korean silver mines. The walls were reinforced with strong wooden beams and special stones that could absorb shock waves. "But here's the best part," Sujin said, pressing a button. A hidden door in the wall slid open silently. "We've put doors like this everywhere. They work without power, just simple weights and counterbalances, like ancient temple doors." Major Minji smiled. "The Ravagers won't expect this. They think we're trapped in the city. They don't know we can move freely underground." That night, they put their underground advantage to the test. While the Ravager ships watched the city from above, Yunho led a small team through the tunnels. They came up behind a group of Ravager soldiers who were trying to set up a new weapon. The surprise attack worked perfectly. The Ravagers never saw them coming. Yunho's team destroyed the weapon and disappeared back underground before the enemy knew what happened. "I don't understand," they heard a Ravager officer shout through their radio. "How did they get past our sensors? How did they know where we were?" Sujin was monitoring everything from her underground control room. The walls were lined with simple mechanical gauges and markers. No complex computers that could be hacked or shut down. "They're scanning the area now," she reported. "But all they'll find is solid rock. Our ancestors knew how to hide things underground. We just followed their example." Over the next few days, Yunho led more surprise attacks. His teams would appear from hidden exits, cause trouble for the Ravagers, then vanish back underground. The enemy became nervous, jumping at shadows. "It's like they're ghosts," one captured Ravager soldier said. "They come out of nowhere, then disappear into the ground." The tunnels had other uses too. Sujin had built hidden storage rooms filled with food and supplies. Even if the siege lasted months, the city wouldn't starve. They also used the tunnels to move injured people to safe places and bring in fresh water from underground springs. One morning, Hansol visited the deepest tunnel. Sujin showed him an ancient inscription they had found carved into the rock. It was hundreds of years old, left by the original miners. "It says, 'The mountain keeps our secrets,'" she translated. Those old miners knew something important. Sometimes the best way to survive is to work with nature, not against it. The Ravagers were getting desperate. Their sensors couldn't find the tunnels. Their soldiers were afraid to go near the city walls. Every time they set up new weapons, Yunho's teams would appear from nowhere and destroy them. In his underground office, Yunho marked another successful mission on his map. The tunnels had changed everything. While the Ravagers looked for high-tech solutions, humans had once again found strength in simple, ancient wisdom. "They'll never understand," he told Su Jin as they planned the next mission. "They think being advanced means having the newest technology. But true advancement means knowing when to use old knowledge in new ways." Above them, the Ravager ships continued their useless patrol. But now, every shadow, every hole in the ground made them nervous. They had learned that on this death world, the ground itself was their enemy's ally. The Ravager Supreme Commander had finally lost his patience. After a month of failed attacks, he gave the order everyone had feared. "Destroy the city from orbit. Use all our weapons. Leave nothing standing." Captain Hansol watched from the command center as the Ravager ships moved into position above the city. Their weapons began to glow with deadly red light. "They're going to bomb us from space," Ambassador Kyle said, his blue face filled with worry. "Not even your stone walls can survive that kind of attack." But Du Hyun, who stood nearby looking at his blueprints, just smiled. "That's what they think. But we built these walls for exactly this situation." The first bombs fell from the sky like deadly rain. They hit the walls with incredible force. The ground shook, windows rattled, but when the smoke cleared, everyone saw something amazing. The walls still stood. Impossible. The Ravager commander's voice boomed over their radio. How did they survive? Su Jin explained it to Ambassador Kyle, pointing to Du Hyun's designs. "Look at the wall's shape. Those curves and angles aren't just for show. They spread out the force of impacts. And the special stones we used. They can take more heat than any metal." The Ravagers fired again and again. Each time, the walls held. They had been built using secrets learned from studying volcanic rocks and earthquake zones. Earth's deadliest natural forces had taught humans how to build things that could survive anything. But Hansol knew they couldn't just defend forever. While the Ravagers were focused on bombing the city, he put his own plan into action. "It's time," he said to his chosen team. "While they're busy up there, we're going to pay them a visit." Deep underground, in a hidden hangar, sat 3 small spaceships. They weren't beautiful like alien ships. They were ugly and simple, built from Earth metals, and designed to look like space junk. "The Ravagers are so proud of their technology," Hansol told his pilots. "They never guard against simple things. Their ships are full of computers and sensors, but they don't watch for plain metal objects." The plan was dangerous but clever. While the Ravagers dropped their bombs, Hansol's 3 ships would sneak up behind their fleet. They would look like floating space debris, just more junk in orbit. "Remember," he told his team, "their ships depend on complex systems to work. But our ships are simple. Even if they use EMPs, we'll keep flying." They launched during the heaviest bombing. The Ravagers were so busy attacking the city, they didn't notice 3 pieces of space junk floating up from the ground. Hansol piloted the lead ship himself. They had painted the ships with special dark paint that absorbed radar signals. No computers, no fancy systems, just good pilots using their skills. When they got close to the Ravager fleet, Hansol sent the signal. His 3 ships split up, each one targeting a different enemy ship. They carried simple but powerful rockets, the kind humans had been building for decades. The first explosion caught the Ravagers completely by surprise. A second followed, then a third. The enemy ships had never expected an attack from such simple weapons. Their complex shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid rockets. "Their shields only work against high-tech weapons," Hansol shouted to his team. "Keep firing the regular rockets." The Ravager fleet fell into chaos. They had never faced an enemy who would attack them in space with such basic weapons. Their sensors were useless against ships made of simple metal. Their computers couldn't track targets that didn't use any electronics. From the ground, Everyone watched as explosions lit up the night sky. The mighty Ravager fleet was being beaten by 3 small ships that looked like junk. "I don't understand," Ambassador Kyle said, watching the battle. "Your ships are so primitive." "Yes," Su Jin answered proudly. "That's why they're winning. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." The space battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the Ravager fleet was in ruins. The survivors started to retreat, their supreme commander's ship leading the way. Han Solo's team returned to Earth as heroes. They had proved something important. Even in space, human ingenuity could beat alien technology. The Ravagers had trusted their advanced weapons and shields, never imagining they could be defeated by ships that looked like garbage. News of Earth's victory spread quickly across the galaxy. The Ravager fleet, which had never been defeated before, had run away from a planet they called primitive. Other alien civilizations wanted to know how humans had done it. 1 week after the battle, the Galactic Council called a special meeting. They asked Do Hyun and Su Jin to present Earth's defensive techniques to the greatest alien engineers in the galaxy. The meeting room was huge, filled with beings from 100 different worlds. "These humans did what we thought was impossible," Ambassador Kyle announced to the crowd. "They beat the Ravagers without using advanced shields or energy weapons. We need to learn from them." Do Hyun stood at the front of the room, showing his blueprint designs on a large screen. The alien engineers leaned forward, amazed by what they saw. "Our walls look simple," Do Hyun explained, "but every stone has a purpose. We studied how mountains stand against storms. We learned from earthquakes and volcanoes. Nature taught us how to build strong defenses." Su Jin then showed them the tunnel systems. She explained how they had used old mining techniques to hide from alien sensors. The aliens were surprised that something so simple could work so well. "But what about the space battle?" one alien asked. "How did your simple ships defeat their advanced fleet?" Captain Hansol stepped forward. He had brought pieces of the ships they had used. The aliens passed them around, surprised by how basic they were. "You build everything too complicated," Hansol said. "Your ships need 1,000 computers just to fly straight. Ours only need a good pilot and a strong engine. When your computers failed, your ships were useless. When our systems were attacked, we kept flying." More alien engineers arrived every day to study Earth's defenses. They brought their best scanning equipment, trying to find the secret. But the secret wasn't in any hidden technology. "The secret is in here," Su Jin told them, holding up an old book of Korean fortress designs. "And here," she added, pointing to the workers who were still fixing the walls. Knowledge passed down through generations, skills learned from surviving on a dangerous world. The Galactic Council made a special announcement. They officially declared Earth's defensive techniques as protected cultural technology. This meant that no one could copy Earth's designs without permission. It was a great honor. Do Hyun found himself teaching alien architects about the importance of working with natural materials. Su Jin started a special school where she taught engineers from other worlds about building things that could last for centuries. "Look at this," she told her alien students one day, showing them a simple stone arch. No power needed, no computers, just perfectly cut stones holding each other up. It will stand longer than any energy shield. Even Ambassador Kyle had changed his mind about human technology. He asked Do Hyun to help design new defenses for his home world. "We were wrong about humans," he admitted. "We thought new always meant better. We forgot that some old ways are still the best ways." The Ravagers never returned to Earth. Stories spread about the planet where simple walls had defeated their mighty fleet. Some said the Ravagers now avoided any planet that had learned from Earth's builders. One evening, Hansol found Su Jin and Do Hyun sitting on top of the city wall. They were watching alien students learning how to cut and place stones the proper way. "Did you ever think we'd be teaching aliens how to build walls?" Su Jin asked, laughing. Do Hyun shook his head. "They're starting to understand now. True strength isn't about having the newest technology. It's about knowing what works and why it works. Below them, the city was busy with visitors from across the galaxy. Alien engineers studied every part of the defenses. Workers taught them about different types of stone. Pilots showed them how to fly without relying on computers. Earth had not only won a war, it had changed how the galaxy thought about technology. The aliens had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the strongest solutions. In the end, it wasn't just about walls and tunnels. It was about the wisdom of countless generations who had lived on this death world. That wisdom had proved stronger than any alien technology. 5 years had passed since the Ravager attack. Earth had changed a lot since then. The city walls still stood strong, but now they had both old and new defenses. Energy shields worked together with stone walls. Computer systems helped guide people through the tunnel networks. Jai Yun, Captain Han Sol's daughter, walked through the halls of the New Earth Defense Academy. She was 30 years old now and in charge of teaching both humans and aliens about Earth's special way of fighting. Today's lesson is about balance, she told her class. The room was filled with students from 20 different worlds. Some had blue skin like Ambassador Kyle, others had scales or feathers. All of them wanted to learn Earth's secrets. "Look at this," Jai Yun said, holding up 2 objects. In one hand, she held a piece of advanced alien technology. In the other, she held a simple stone from Earth's walls. Both are important. Both have their place. The trick is knowing when to use each one. The Academy had grown famous across the galaxy. It was the only place where you could learn both high-tech alien defense and traditional human building techniques. Even the Galactic Council sent their best students there. Su Jin, now the head engineer of Earth's defense system, often came to teach special classes. She had helped create the new hybrid defensive systems that everyone used. "Remember what the Ravager attack taught us," she told a group of alien engineers. "Never trust in just one way of doing things. Nature uses many different defenses, so should we." Do Hyun's designs had spread across the galaxy too. Many worlds now had walls built the Earth way, standing strong next to their energy shields. He had written a book called Building with Wisdom that was read on thousands of planets. One morning, Jai Yun received an urgent message. A new alien race had been discovered, and they needed help building defenses on their world. "They live on a planet with strong gravity and constant storms," the message said, "just like Earth. Can you help them?" Jai Yun smiled as she read the message. 5 years ago, aliens would never have asked Earth for help with anything. Now they came to humans first, especially when they needed strong, reliable defenses. She gathered a team for the mission. They packed simple tools alongside advanced alien devices. Earth's builders now traveled the stars, teaching others how to work with their own planet's natural strengths. "Your world is not a weakness," Jai Yun told the new aliens when she met them. "It is your greatest teacher. That's what we learned on Earth. Our dangerous world taught us how to survive anything." Ambassador Kyle, who still represented the Galactic Council on Earth, watched all this with pride. He had been wrong about humans, but learning from that mistake had made the whole galaxy stronger. "The Ravagers haven't attacked anyone in 5 years, he told Jai Yun one day. "They know better now. Every world they might attack has learned from Earth. Everyone has strong walls and clever defenses." In the Academy's main hall, Jai Yun had hung the message that Do Hyun had found in the old wall years ago, built not just with stone, but with the wisdom of ages. Below it, she added her own words, "And share that wisdom with the stars." The students who graduated from the Academy took this message to heart. They learned to use both old and new ways. They studied Earth's history alongside alien technology. They learned that true strength came from understanding all kinds of knowledge. Han Sol, who still advised the Academy, often told students his favorite story. He would describe how simple stone walls and hand-built tunnels had defeated the galaxy's strongest army. But the real victory, he would say, wasn't beating the Ravagers. It was showing the galaxy a better way. Now we don't just build walls. We build bridges between worlds. We don't just share technology. We share wisdom. Earth had changed the galaxy's future by remembering its past. The lesson was clear. The strongest civilizations were those that could learn from everything. Old and new, simple and advanced, Earth wisdom and alien science. As Jia Yun watched her students practice both ancient building techniques and modern alien technology, she knew this legacy would live on. Future generations would face new challenges, but they would face them with all the tools and wisdom that both Earth and the stars could provide.